All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our additional InCare EVV virtual training. EVV in InCare, we're going to go live with next week, next Tuesday on August 1st. So feel free to take notes throughout this presentation. There is an ability in this webinar to ask questions into the chat window. So if you add a question during this training, I will address it at the conclusion of this session. All right, let's review the features on the platform that we're on right now, which is called GoToWebinar. If you're attending on a computer, you should see this widget somewhere on your screen. If you click on the orange arrow, it'll open the control panel. And then in there is an option to add questions. If you're on a cell phone, it looks a little bit differently, and it's most likely you're on the GoToWebinar app. To ask a question, just select the Questions tab at the bottom. All right, hopefully you've had time to watch the Apple or Android InCare mobile app download and installation video and the InCare EVV submission and documentation video. If you have, a lot of this information will look familiar to you, but today I plan to dive a little deeper and provide some clarification on the new InCare EVV system transition. So today's agenda is as follows: making sure that you clock in and out accurately, doing your documentation successfully, and then correcting any missing EVV data once it's time to submit your note. Let's discuss some of the benefits of this system transition. So your EVV times are now connected to your note. So now the schedule, note, and EVV all fall into a linear process. Additionally, you won't have multiple login credentials. The app is the same username and password that is used to access the InCare portal or the InCare on the browser that you have normally done your documentation on. Staff will now have the ability to add a schedule on the app or change the schedule before clocking in or out. Staff will also have the ability to change the location between clock in and clock out, which reduces GPS exceptions. And lastly, staff can correct time discrepancies when submitting notes instead of having to contact the Forte offices. The two platforms needed to complete the new EVV process are the new InCare mobile app. This will be used to capture EVV, so clock in, clock out, and GPS location. And now also having the ability to schedule, all can be done on the app. The other is the web browser to access the InCare portal, where staff can do documentation like normal, may that be on your phone or on a computer. If you've watched the app download and installation video, you're aware of the login process, but just as a quick review, the hostname is forte.myincare.com, which is the same URL as the web portal. Then, as I mentioned, your username and password are the same as the web portal. So now your username and password are the same for EVV and documentation. So once you're logged into the app, you'll see what's pictured on the right. When logging in, it always defaults to this page, which is the Notes tab. Please also note the bottom taskbar. First is the Notes tab. This is where all of your scheduled shifts will be listed. You can also check the calendar icon in the top right-hand corner to change the date and see other upcoming shifts. Next is the Scheduling tab. This is where you can add, modify, or remove schedules. Beside that is Notification. These are the same notifications as the web portal or the web browser. For example, note rejections or scheduled time changes. Beside that is Files. We are not going to use Files at this time. It'll be released at a later date. And lastly is Settings, and the only option in there is to log out of the app. Right, now that we have reviewed login information and app navigation, let's explore scheduling on the app. So before I get into scheduling, I wanted to mention that the scheduling capabilities on the app is just an additional avenue to scheduling. If you are used to scheduling in the browser and want to continue to do that, you can. Just the scheduling functionality in the app is just an additional avenue to add, modify, or remove schedules. So all staff are now able to add, modify, or remove schedules from the app. While in the Scheduling tab, to add, click the plus sign. Simply select the date, add the start and end time, client name, and service. Although we are adding a schedule on the app, it is the same as the schedule on the portal, and all scheduling rules still apply. You cannot exceed the budgetary amount for the month or quarter. Staff cannot work longer than 16 hours a day, 40 hours a week, or have overlapping shifts with other staff for the same client and service. Still under the Scheduling tab, if we click into an existing appointment, we have the ability to modify it. The date and time can be adjusted. As I mentioned in the beginning, staff can now change the shift times here, which updates the InCare schedule and note. Also at the bottom, you can remove the schedule completely. Now that we're done with scheduling, let's move on to the clock in and clock out process. So under the Notes tab, we'll want to click into the intended shift we plan to begin. It'll look like what's pictured on the left. When it's time to clock in, first you'll want to select the location: home, school, work, or other. Whichever location you select, the address will be listed at the bottom of the screen under permanent address. These are the approved locations for the start and or end of your shift. If you see that one is missing, contact your branch office to get it added. In the screenshot on the left, the location I selected is home, and the home address is shown at the bottom of the screen under permanent address. Right above that, the app has captured my GPS location and is showing that I am near the home address that I selected. If your GPS isn't registering correctly, you have the option to refresh GPS down at the bottom. If all of that information is correct, clock in, and the logged clock in time will appear on the screen. Lastly, you should follow the 14-minute rule, clocking in, making sure you clock in within the window of 7 minutes before or after shift start. Moving on to clocking out. So under the Notes tab again, we're going to select the shift you're intending to end, and you'll notice a yellow clock icon indicating that a clock in was already captured. Once you're ready to clock out, select the location. It may be the same if you never left that location during your shift, or may have changed if, for example, staff dropped the client off at work. A minor change to your workflow is that you now must clock out before submitting your note on InCare. Now that EVV and the note are connected, both the clock in and out must be on the note before you're able to submit. Lastly, again, you should follow the 14-minute rule for clocking out, making sure you clock out within the window of 7 minutes before or after shift end. All right, let's talk a little bit about what you'll see differently on your note. So Forte still encourages staff to document as you go throughout your shift. While doing so, you may notice the new electronic visit verification section on the note. This is where your clock in and outs that were captured in the app tie to and are displayed on the note. Once again, I want to remind you that you must clock in, document your shift as you go, clock out, then submit. As you see in this screenshot, both the clock in and clock out must be present before you can successfully submit. Next, we're moving right along to correcting GPS and missing times. So what was previously shown was what happens when things work smoothly. So let's get into what to do when we run into GPS issues. So first is the GPS exception or an unregistered location. If your clock or in or out is not registered, is not at a registered location, you will see a message saying that your location is outside the 1 mile radius of the specified location. So we can see that in our screenshot on the right, kind of that red notification. So in this screenshot, I selected home and I should be at 120 South Lake Street in Warsaw, Indiana. And I can see that by looking at the permanent address at the bottom. So when I'm looking, I see that my GPS location found and my permanent address are not matching. So the red notice informs me that a GPS exception will be created when I go to do my note. Even if I get this notice, I should continue to clock in or clock out. GPS exception continued. So upon opening your note on InCare, this EVV exception pop-up box will appear. You need to select a reason and provide a comment explaining to Forte why you clocked in or out outside of that 1 mile. You'll have to provide the reason and comment for if one or both of your clocked times are outside that 1 mile radius. For example, if only my clock in GPS didn't register correctly, I would only have to input it once. If both clock in and out GPS were incorrect, I would have to put it twice. This is because the reason can be different for the clock in and clock out and need justification for both. If you receive this red drop-down banner, please ensure that a clock in and clock out have been completed. If you're unable to perform either of these, please fill out an adjusted time using the request modification button. So this probably means that you forgot to clock out. If you confirm, you can confirm this by checking the electronic visit verification section on the note. If the clock out is missing, go back to the app and clock out. If you're unable to access the app, request modification for your times in the EVV section on the note. So request modification is essentially manually adding your times. May that be forgetting to clock out or not capturing times at all. The note is now providing you the ability to manually add your times instead of you having to reach out to your Forte office. All EVV time adjustments will be made on the InCare portal note under the electronic visit verification section by selecting request modification. There, you will select the start and or end time and select request. Reminder, the request modification function should be used as a last resort. All attempts should be made to capture both start and end time on the app. Next, we have missing clock out 15 minutes after your shift is over. So 15 minutes after your shift has ended, you can no longer access that shift on the app to clock out. Since that time frame is missed, an EVV exception box will appear when you open your note, essentially giving Forte the reason as to why that clock out was missed, since you can no longer access that shift on the app. Once you've provided that reason and comment, in the EVV section, select request modification, manually adding your clock out time. So these pop-ups might sound confusing, but that's just what they are. So when you go onto your note, the system's automatically going to pop that up and question your GPS or question your missing clock outs. So don't feel like it's something that you have to remember. The system's just going to prompt you to add these reasons and comments. So the next scenario, if neither EVV time submissions are made, that same EVV exception box from the previous slide will appear when you open your note on InCare. This is providing staff with a way to give a reason and comment about why their time entries are missing. Once you confirm your reason in that same EVV section, request modification, again, just manually adding your time so that Forte is aware of the times that should have been captured in the app. And that eliminates staff from having to reach out to the Forte office for missing EVVs. Lastly, even if EVV clock in and out were captured properly and staff needs to make an adjustment, you can still request modification. For example, your shift was supposed to end at 1 p.m. but the mother didn't get home until 1:15 p.m. Request modification to change the end time. Provide the reason and submit. That then notifies the Forte office of the change without additional communication. All right, let's review the most frequently asked questions over the past couple weeks. So number 1, are you still able to schedule on the web browser? And the answer is yes. The new functionality on the app is an additional avenue to create and modify schedules. Number 2, can staff modify the end time on the app after the shift has started? The answer is yes. You can change the end time anytime during your shift by editing the current shift under the scheduling tab. And that can also be done even if you have started your note. Number 3, what if the staff does not have a phone to download the app? Please reach out to your branch office and request a Forte tablet. We have ones that connect to Wi-Fi, as well as if you're out and about in the community, ones that work just like a cell phone. Number 4, can staff still use their computer with EVV? Unfortunately, no. All clock in and outs must be done on the app. Although all documentation or your notes can still be done on the computer. Number 5 is, what if a client is missing an approved EVV location on the app? So you'll want to reach out to your local branch office to get that added. Those approved locations can be a second home address, school, work, or other. To be considered an approved location, it should be a location where staff frequently starts or ends shifts. And our last one is, if the GPS location is somewhere else, should staff still clock in? And the answer is yes, continue clocking in. Then the GPS exception will appear when it's time to complete your note. So all training material can be found at forteresidential.org/training. And in there are training videos, as well as a written step-by-step guide of everything that I talked about today. So please visit that /training on the website. Additional assistance can be obtained by contacting your case coordinator at your branch office. If anything was too confusing today, or if it would be easier for you to learn in person, feel free to reach out to your branch office. Additionally, you can reach out to my department, the Forte IT department, at the number and extension that's listed there. Or you can reach out to Forte at forteresidential.org.
Thank you so much for watching our training video. If you would like to stay updated on the latest training videos or just need a quick refresher, please head over to www.forteresidential.org/training. There you can find the latest training videos. We look forward to seeing you again soon.